Seven things to consider before casting your vote for the next presidential candidate, or seven questions you may want to ask your presidential candidate. This is Right Now Revelation. I am Elion Tate Bell. Seven things to consider before casting your vote for your next presidential candidate. First of all, ask yourself this. Will this person actually level with us about 9/11? Let's keep in mind, this was one of the greatest tragedies to happen on U.S. soil in our history. Okay. Almost 3,000 Americans lost their lives, and the families of these people still have not gotten the truth to this day about what actually happened on 9/11. And this is just not acceptable. So will we have a president that will actually go into office and give us some real cold hard truth? Remains to be seen. First, let's consider this, and let's keep this really, really simple. There was actually two planes. However, three buildings actually went down that day. Now, this is a fact that most people don't even realize, that there was actually a third building. In fact, World Trade Center Tower number 7 actually collapsed as well in free fall fashion. Okay. Now, the cause was determined to be simple office fires. Come on, guys. This is really, really impossible. Now, if we're going to let something as just erroneous as this go, then, what are we really doing in this country? Really? Two planes, three buildings, one building goes down in 12 seconds due to office fires? Now, I ask you, as time permits, if you would check out Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. These guys have been trying to dig up the truth for years and still are getting railroaded about the true facts of what actually happened on this very, very tragic day. But also, let's not forget heroic guys like Fire Department of New York Chief Oriel Palmer. This guy actually got all the way to the 78th floor, only to realize that it was only small fires up there, which he thought they could just put out with a couple of lines. A minute or so later, boom, the building, meaning the South Tower, actually goes down. He lost his life in heroic fashion. And again, we still don't have the truth about what actually happened. So we have got to just restore the confidence in our political system. And until I can actually, get the truth about what happened on this tragic day, I just can't run out here all willy-nilly and just cast my vote for anybody. So just keep in mind, again, most people call this a false flag. I ask that you look into this. Again, 911truth.com, just what actually happened. I can even recall just bringing this up in just an office setting on my job one day. Guy was ready to fight me, a fist fight, because I just told him, man, hey, dude, it was two planes and three buildings. He didn't realize it was the third building, and he was ready to come to blows. Sheer and utter ignorance. So I ask that you educate yourself. We owe it to the families to know the truth about 9/11. All right. Seven things to ask your next presidential candidate, or maybe seven things to consider before voting for your next presidential candidate. Number 2, U.S. debt clock. I want you guys, as time permits, just go click on the U.S. debt clock. Every time I look at this, it really just freaks me out. I have to get up, walk around, and just try to process exactly what I'm looking at. Now, unlike 9/11, where this thing has all been like a big, massive cover up, here with the U.S. debt clock, everything is right here and it's just transparent as possible. So you can go here and verify everything I'm telling you right now. Let's start here. First of all, our U.S. debt now, we're in over $23 trillion in debt. Again, 23 trillion. Now they break this down because you have to realize each of us has been collateralized against the debt. Go into that, you'll realize exactly what's going on. A lot of things are just not what it seems, but each of us have been collateralized against the debt. So, each and every citizen over $70,000 per citizen, and that equates to over 187,000 per taxpayer. This is our responsibility for this, okay? Because we are the country. The people make this up. Our work, our blood, sweat, tears, our labor makes this thing up. Now, the taxes that they collect from us can't even cover the interest on the debt. All right, so keep that in mind. So what that means now, so they're collecting all these taxes and all us all taxed to the hilt. Worst case, you're probably taxed at what, 20, 25, 30%. So that's still not enough because even with the tax that they're collecting, we're still running over $1 trillion deficit. So over $1 trillion is going to be added now on an annual basis. So this time next year, easily over 24 trillion. Now, here's where it really, really gets kind of crazy. When you look at the unfunded liabilities, okay, it is at 127 trillion. I mean, it's crazy. 127 trillion. Of that, about 20 trillion and Social Security, and then another 31 trillion for Medicare. So what that means is, guys, like our children, anybody who has young kids, young people, if you're working now and they're taking like Medicare out of your check, and they're tasking you for Social Security, you're never, ever going to see $1. That is impossible, because at some point this Ponzi scheme has to end. So if you add that together with the unfunded liabilities and then the other debt, that's over 150 trillion. And guess what? We have all been collateralized against the debt. So that puts us at now 386,000 per citizen. Look it up. I can't make this stuff up. Okay. Now, again, this is at usdebtclock.org right here. Plain as day for you to see that this is just way, way out of hand. All right, so 7 things that you want to consider before voting on your next presidential candidate. Number 3 is a Federal Reserve System. Now, the Federal Reserve System, there is nothing federal about it. In fact, this is a private company with shareholders and the like that we have given control over our monetary system. Now, just a second ago, I mentioned the U.S. debt clock. If you want to look back at the U.S. debt clock, you can see that the shareholders actually profit on an annual basis, and they put it here in plain sight. So again, this private company, the shareholders of the Federal Reserve, $78 billion in profits for the shareholders of the Federal Reserve System. Now, I have featured here, you can see The Creature from Jekyll Island. This is a book that was written by Edward Griffin. Well, he actually goes into the first private secret meeting that went into actually forming the Federal Reserve System, held off of Jekyll Island, off of the coast of Georgia. And these private bankers actually formed the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve Act actually went into effect back in 1913. Now, they control the interest rates, raising the rates, lowering the rates. But also, I know each of us can probably remember back in 2008 when we had the financial crash, and we had the too big to fail banks. Well, since then, the Fed has just been printing money just out of hand, and their technical term is called quantitative easing. So now over $4 trillion created, and that's probably even a soft guesstimate, on what they have created since the financial crash. So for these too big to fail banks. Now, keep in mind, each of us as taxpayers, are we too big to fail? I guess not. So even now in the current markets, the repo markets, I think there was a number I just heard the other day, about $186 per citizen per day. that they're creating to bail out the repo markets now. So they're trying to put a bunch of liquidity in the markets to keep this Ponzi scheme going. And guys, so keep in mind, there are some dates I want you guys to try to just kind of put in your back pocket. 1913, when this thing was formed. 1933, when they actually confiscated all our gold. 1974, yeah, I was actually born when we actually went off of the gold standard. So what that means is now they're able to create money where the money is not pegged to anything. It's not backed by gold like it was in the past. It used to be that you can go redeem $1 for gold. And we think that dollar is real money. Again, only real money is gold and silver. So don't lose track of that. And so this what we call fiat currency is backed by nothing. In fact, I'll go into this a little bit further because this is a lot in what I'm saying right now. But as a historical fact, because all this stuff runs together, all fiat currencies have failed. So when you look at our current dollar, it's just not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So keep in mind that right now we're at 150 trillion total debt when you look at the unfunded liabilities, while at the same time we've paid out 78 billion in profits to the shareholders of the Federal Reserve System. So again, good sound questions and things to consider before you run out to the poll and cast your vote for the next presidential candidate. And ask yourself this: will they level with you about what their plan is to fix this? Is there a plan? Okay, I doubt not. Now, don't confuse the stock market being at an all-time high with the economy doing well. Now, one thing I like about candidate Trump is he leveled when he told and he knew the facts that the stock market was inflated under Obama. It's a bubble that they blew. Okay, it's all just smoke and mirrors. Now, as President Trump, he's taking credit for the stock market being at an all-time high, but these jokers all know that this just is a big Ponzi scheme. The stock market is just a bubble that's waiting to pop, okay? So be smart, guys. So don't get caught, when it's too late, when you have all your money in the stock market. I can remember back in 2008, what I personally lost was a whole lot, not knowing this simple fact. So be smart with your assets. You may want to divert some of your assets into real money, gold, and silver. Okay, now I am not a financial consultant or analyst. This is just for informational purposes only, but just be very, very, very cautious about the stock market. It's just a big old bubble that's waiting to pop. Okay, do not confuse the stock market being at an all-time high with the economy doing well. Those two do not equate. I would like to just mention some guys who have really, really just enlightened me on this. One guy is Jim Rickards. I would ask that you look at some of his videos. You can Google him online. His books are pretty dry, so dry read, so stay away. But he's a wealth of knowledge on this. I love Lynette Zhang, ITM Trading. She's on YouTube. Look her up. Lynette can really break this stuff down. She is phenomenal. My homeboy, I'm calling my homeboy Peter Schiff, because this dude just really breaks it down for me. Even a guy that I've read a couple of his books prior to, and then realized he was up on just sound money, and that's Robert Kiyosaki. I read his book years ago, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But he also has a guy he's with also, which is Mike Maloney, also just mentions just the fact that you really want to be invested in gold and silver. I gave you guys a few names there. That's a wealth of knowledge just amongst those guys to really go really, really more into this subject, this topic. It is very, very, very important. And also, if you want to know more about the Federal Reserve System, definitely check out G. Edward Griffin in his book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, a great read. Again, things to consider before you run out to the polls. Again, the Federal Reserve System. Just what is it? All right, 7 things to consider before voting for your next presidential candidate, or 7 things that you may want to ask your next presidential candidate. This is number 4, geoengineering, just what is going on in the skies above. Now, guys, before you run away on this topic, just hold tight, button your seatbelt, let me finish, okay? I can remember my first reaction. I was sitting out on my back deck, my neighbor and I remember he first mentioned that there were planes above there were spraying and it was going to have some impact on the weather. I was like, oh my, this joker's been over into the war. He really is crazy. That I guess there's some truth about that PTSD. But I remember just looking into this and I was like, oh my. But this subject is not new to me, as I remember as a 7th grader doing a science project in the hole in the ozone layer. And I remember the official narrative. There's always this official narrative where the hole in the ozone layer was caused by chlorofluorocarbons. And that was like at the time in like your normal hairspray, air fresheners. You can even look on the back of your air freshener and it sprays like that now. It'll say contains no CFCs. But actually, after just looking into this subject a little bit further, I realized that there is something definitely going on in the skies. Now, as a golfer, I would go out and just play around the golf. And I would get up early. And I can remember just seeing the planes just fly above. And I would look and just watch a straight line. And I've done this with a number of friends and family. But just a straight line. Then all of a sudden, hours later, a straight line from an airplane turns into a full-blown cloud. Now, what is that? I mean, that's not natural. That's not normal. Airplane, if stuff should just evaporate, but this stuff was turned into a full-blown cloud. So I realized that there was something not going on. So I started to look more and more into the subject. And I want to just give a shout out now to geoengineering.org, and Dane Wigginton really has helped me with this subject and just realizing what's going on. But from their take in our breathable air columns, guys, aluminum, barium, strontium, to name a few, and these nanoparticles are all part of what's called like solar radiation management. You know, aluminum helps the sun rays to be reflected back out into outer space and from us. Also, chemical ice nucleation. So they also making this artificial snow and these weather whiplash, all this stuff. Dane goes really, really in depth, and he does an awesome, awesome job of it. So I want to just plug him now. But again, what's going on in the sky? So again, I like to plug another guy here for a different reason, though. Ralph Smart. Ralph had this something he mentioned to me when I saw one of his videos. It didn't mention to me directly, but anyway, from one of his videos, 7-day vegan challenge. So what I thought, how about just a 7-day look up in the sky challenge? You know, just put your cell phone down and stop looking down and just look up in the skies and just observe what's going on. So get up early in the day, just go outside and just check out the skies. What is going on in the skies? And you'll see planes traversing the skies spraying something. I mean, this is nothing that's even hidden. In plain sight, these jokers are spraying. And they're spraying this stuff, and we're breathing and ingesting in this stuff, and it's just not good. Toxins and poisons. This aluminum is having an impact on us and Alzheimer's and all kind of stuff. But I want to at some point even tie in what I also think is all a correlation with not just the spraying, but also with the vaccines and the fluoride. I think it's all joined together, all in one old lump sum. But again, as you get some time, just check out geoengineering.org and Dane Wigginton. And now, but also I feature a lot of different poems in my new book, Right Now Revelation, which really goes into this topic even more. So now I actually want to kind of go through one poem, which I kind of like. I just label it Tic Tac Toe. Tic-tac-toe played all across the sky. Few in the world with the courage to ask why. Poison sprayed from planes in every direction. So many getting sick. Make the connection. Extreme weather on every plane. What are these toxins doing to our brain? Keeping us locked down in this paradigm. If the truth you seek, the truth you will find. I thought our government was supposed to work for us. Collateral against the debt. Massive global trust. Ignorant to how much you are actually worth. A fraud that started when your mother gave birth. To a living soul, free to walk the land. Don't be fooled. You are not your straw man. How can we get the world to focus on the real issues instead of chasing something that has less value than tissue? Come on, people. I know we can do much better. Let us at least ask why they are manipulating our weather. This problem we have is one that we can solve. Yet we've got to be knowledgeable and find resolve to do what we know in our hearts need to be done. Even it means sacrificing comfort and what we call fun. Let's remove the toxins from our food, air, and water while being conscious there's a plan, a new world order. Better speak now or forever hold your peace. A life as you know it will most certainly cease. So this poem, Tic-Tac-Toe, goes in a plethora of different directions, mentioning like geoengineering, even the toxin that's put in our food, the poisons put in our water, but also even a subject that I haven't even spoken on yet, and that's straw man. That'll be something for it. It deserves a whole video for itself. I find it just to be fascinating. But again, guys, don't have that normal knee-jerk reaction when it comes to, geoengineering. And, I know my first reaction, only God can, make it rain. I get it. But just check into it. From what I glean from Dane and other sources that I've checked into, over 70 plus years that, they've been manipulating the weather. And so just be conscious of what's going on. Again, geoengineering. But check this out. This poem here, Tic-Tac-Toe, it is featured in my new book, newly revised, Right Now Revelation. You can see the cover now. Get your copy. It is available on Amazon and anywhere books are sold. This is a couple other poems which kind of go into it. In fact, one poem is in fact labeled geoengineering, as this is something that's near and dear to my heart. I hope you glean something from it. All right, so the fifth thing to consider before choosing your presidential candidate, de jure versus de facto. Now, just what is this? These are just both Latin terms where de jure just means in law and de facto just means in fact. So I'm just going to go now just to the Wikipedia version of this. I'll just kind of give you an idea of just what this is talking about. Okay, so in law and government, de jure describes practices that are legally recognized regardless of whether the practice exists in reality. In contrast, de facto describes situations that exist in reality even though not legally recognized. The terms are often used to contrast different scenarios. So our government, our country was set up and founded up off of de jure. It was the de jure form of government. However, as years passed, now we currently operate under a de facto form of government. Okay, so this is a big difference. So don't miss this point. Now, again, de jure government, it was founded under a republic. Okay, so it was real. It was actual. people actually had like a allodial. You had like a allodial title, real claim to land. It was just. It was fair. It gave us what we call due process. We were presented. We actually had real money, real sound money. Conversely, de facto is what we have now. Okay, government in fact. Okay, United States as a corporation. So we may think that we actually have a real government, but it's the United States corporation, no different than Walmart Corporation. Okay, it's a democracy, which is just another word for mob rule. It's fake. It gives you the color of law, pretending to be law, but it's just the color of law. It's feudal. So versus again that word allodial, feudal are exact opposites. Okay, so you remember the feudal system with the landlord having all the rights. Unjust, unfair, no due process, a represented form of government that gives you, again, the fiat, the fake currency, okay, so which is backed by nothing. So here's the big thing is that most people don't get this, so I want you guys to really dive in and study and know just the difference between de jure and de facto. Taj Tariq Bey, one of the Grand Sheiks at the Moores Science Center. This guy is awesome. As you can see, I've been plugging several people on this video, but Taj is just a wealth of knowledge, and he really goes really in depth into just what this is all about. Realize that civics is not taught anymore. So again, get abreast of just what's really going on in society. Know the difference between de jure and de facto government, okay? Then you can understand several things about what's really going on, okay? So again, de jure versus de facto. All right, the sixth thing to consider before choosing your presidential candidate. Now, keep in mind that oftentimes we really have to pay attention. And one thing that I think we all know from President Trump, he's been saying the whole time is he's going to drain the swamp. Just what is the swamp? Who is the swamp? Okay. What is he talking about? He's going to drain the swamp. Well, let me dive in. Now, this is by no way any endorsement on for Trump. Okay. Just so you know, I did not vote for Trump in the last election. I did not vote for Hillary. I frankly believe in, where the lesser of two evils. What is that all about? I feel like we should even have even more choices, but also I feel like we should also be educated as to actually what's going on. So I actually voted green. I actually voted for Jill Stein in the last election because I could not make myself vote for either one of these candidates that we had. But after further evaluation, I want to just kind of dive in and just figure out exactly what is President Trump talking about in draining the swamp. Here's my take on that, okay? You guys probably heard the term the deep state, the military industrial complex. I'll even say the congressional now, after listening to Ty's congressional military industrial complex, where you have these players who are not elected, the hidden hands, so to speak, which really actually control a lot of things, okay? So what are these people doing? Well, they have set up a government, in fact, de facto, okay, where, again, it's fake, a feudal system that's unjust, unfair, no due process. And then we can all agree that this fiat currency is out of hand, backed by nothing. This bubble is about to burst. Again, just know that real money is gold and silver, okay? So, in my opinion, he's letting the cat out the bag, okay? And so because Trump is now trying to introduce, again, the republic form of government, which our country was actually founded on, now he's really getting beat up a good bit. You guys, I don't know what's your take on this whole impeachment stuff. I think it's just bogus. Again, I'm not trying to endorse Trump, but come on, man. I mean, we're impeaching somebody for a phone call. I think it's just bogus. I think when you can pull yourself out of this whole divide of Democrat and Republican and just look at it for what it's worth, we're spending millions of dollars in impeaching a president for a phone call, which after listening to it, I really honestly don't see nothing wrong with the phone call. Now, I can even see. I'm not sure. What is it? Biden's son is taking all these millions of dollars, and where he's taking and has no qualification for the job he allegedly had. Who knows? But I'll just say this: it is a reason that these jokers are at Trump so hard. And again, I am not endorsing Trump. I am just merely just being unbiased to just say this is so bogus. So that lets me know right there. That gives me a clue as to just who the swamp creatures are. You can connect the dots. So again, understand before you run to the polls, figure out, because we don't want to bring in a swamp creature as our next president. Okay, so who is the swamp? Again, you'll see that it's going to be something that's going to be fake. It's going to be smoke and mirrors, unjust, unfair, no due process. And again, this fiat system right now. So know the swamp creatures before you go out and cast your vote. All right. Last thing to consider before choosing your presidential candidate, or maybe the last question you may want to ask your presidential candidate, is going to be dealing with foreign affairs. Okay. Now, how many times in the past have we been tricked regarding foreign affairs? All right. What was it? Weapons of mass destruction. They found nothing. As I start this video off with 9/11, so we're led to believe that a couple of guys took some box cutters, hijacked some planes, flew them into the World Trade Center. 2 planes took down 3 buildings. I mean, utterly just falsity. Okay, so all this stuff just false flags. I can even recall Muammar Gaddafi over in Libya when they went over there and took him out. What was that all about? See, in my opinion, it was all about one thing is Libya and Muammar Gaddafi was looking to actually back their currency with gold. Okay, Libya was a country that didn't have any debt, they didn't have any homelessness, very stable, a very oil-rich country. And they go over there, destabilize the place, take out Muammar Gaddafi, which is a tragedy. And then now the places are still just in shambles to this day based on what we did. But all these false flags. Now we set our eyes on Iran. And Iran is another country, again, that doesn't have a central bank. As back then, Libya didn't have a central bank. So these central banks have to go in and introduce this fiat currency, which is we've introduced now all across the world. All the different countries now across the world are colluding. And Naomi Prinz, I think that's her name. I'm actually reading her book, Collusion, right now. Mentions how all of them collude to kind of set the price of the currencies against each other and all that. Just a big farce. But the thing to keep in mind is what was called the Petro Dollar Cycle. Okay, so because our dollar has been backed by nothing, it has not been backed by gold or silver in such a long time. So what has backed it up has been what they call a Petro Dollar Cycle. So we've basically forced countries to basically buy oil in with the U.S. dollar. So that gives the dollar actually more stability. Okay, so if I'm a country, say Iraq, and I have the oil, and another country, let's say right beside it, Pakistan wants to go buy oil from Iraq. So versus just buying their own currency, the U.S. would make Pakistan convert their currency into the dollar and then go buy the oil. And so that's what has given the dollar stability for so long. Finally, all these countries have wised up and said, no, 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 no. We're not going to keep doing this. So they have broken our dominance, and that petrodollar cycle is no more. Okay, so now leading up to the election, we have to be very, very aware that there could be something that could take place over in what's called the Middle East, smoke and mirrors. It could be some kind of a false flag event, something to distract us from what's really, really going on. So just be very, very careful. Be knowledgeable of just, again, foreign affairs. I kind of really simplify, try to just dumb it down the way I can understand things. Again, but the petrodollar cycle, look into that. And then to just look into all these just false flag events where we go into these countries under false pretense. There was no WMD, still haven't been found to this day. Muammar Gaddafi over in Libya killed tragically. I mean, just that was just wrong. I mean, just no other way to say it. And then also, did these guys really go over with box cutters and hijack these planes? So we had this search for bin Laden. We've apparently found bin Laden, but they didn't show him. They apparently just threw his remains in the ocean. We just got to be a little bit smarter and ask the right questions. So before you go out there and cast your vote, just take all these things into consideration. Okay, so honorable mention is going to be the fractional reserve system, okay? This is something I just want to just kind of also spotlight, also part of the Federal Reserve System. And this is pretty interesting. So keep in mind, right? Let's say if I, as an individual, were to loan you some money, you say, hey, Eliante, let me borrow $100. Okay, I would have to actually have $100 in my pocket to give you as a loan. Okay, however, all these banks that actually give you loans, they are not required to have the full amount on hand. They're only required to have a fraction on hand. So as you can see in this illustration, I've given you just a very simplistic view of this. So let's say if you want to go and borrow $1,000 from your local bank, they're only required to have $100 on hand. If you want to go out and borrow $100 from your bank, they're only required to have $10 on hand. See, this is how the fractional reserve system works. They only have to have a fraction. So where I'm from, again, just to break everything down in just its simplest terms, that's called fraud, okay? They didn't have the money to start with to give it to you. And I think it's just appalling how I just see how many people, have getting their cars repoed, their homes are being foreclosed on by these banksters who are lending money that they don't even have available in the first place. Fraud. Now, also, when you consider on a daily basis, okay, that the repo markets they are putting liquidity in these markets. So they are printing money out of thin air, okay, to help make these markets even more liquid, to go out here and confiscate our stuff. So guys, again, we have just got to ask the right questions, the right town hall meetings before we just run out here all willy-nilly, side with being a Republican or a Democrat or whatever. Same snake, two different things, okay? We have just got to wisen up, okay? I look at this thing, when I look at it just from the outside looking in, I'm like, is it so broken that it can't even be fixed? I don't want to have a spirit of apathy that sets in. When I look at this thing, I mean, I'm really closely getting to that point. Guys, our system is very, very broken. And then this is another form of that right there, this fractional reserve system. Check it out. I ask that you check out everything that I've mentioned here in this video. Just make sure that you're abreast of just some real, topics. Dive a little bit deeper. Get outside the mainstream media. We have just got to just, as ordinary, simple, everyday people, just know what is really going on. See, now we have embarked upon 2020, okay? And we all know that 2020 has been synonymous with with vision and perfect vision. Okay, so now as the clock is rolling 2020, and things are so readily at our fingertips and information, let us use that information to make wise decisions, I should say. So the Bible says that we shall perish for lack of knowledge. So let us not perish, but let us live. And let us live in abundance, because we're going to be abundantly wealthy in the knowledge which we're going to apply, which is going to make us wise. We're going to use this wisdom to impact change, okay? So my mantra, my motto is to create a group of intellectual warriors that will just impact change for the future generations to come. Again, my name is Eliante Bell. This has been Right Now Revelation. Get a copy of my book, Right Now Revelation. It is available on Amazon right now or anywhere books are sold. This is just my way. This is what I do. This is my way just to give back. I hope you guys have been edified. I just pray and ask for your comments. Kind of a low budget thing, but listen, I'm just an ordinary guy working an ordinary job, but just trying to, just deal with extraordinary issues. And that's just an issue just to make this world, our country, a better place. So again, Eliante Bell, I'm signing out. Peace.